I'm Mike Freeman, hoping you're all having a happy new year. I'm at Clegg Memorial Gardens, a scenic nature preserve on the outskirts of Lafayette, Indiana. In this episode, I'm going to share with you my recipe for a Midwest barbecue and grilling staple that was born in the city known as the Gateway to the West. St. Louis pork steaks, today on Fat Mike's Pit. If you're not from the Midwest, particularly St. Louis, you may not know exactly what a pork steak is. Pork steaks are a signature of St. Louis style barbecue, and you'll find them being grilled in backyards across the region. This cut, which are thin steaks carved from a part of the pork shoulder referred to as the Boston butt, is quite ironically rarely found outside of the Midwest. The Boston butt is generally used for roast, sausage, and pulled pork. But two St. Louis business owners recognize that the steaks cut from this area made for fantastic grilling fare. The prevalence of pork steak in regional butcher cases should come as no surprise, considering the cut was popularized in St. Louis by two brothers, Don and Ed Schnuck, in the late 1950s. These brothers were second-generation owners of a string of butcher shops called Schnuck's Market. And it was Schnucks that first offered pork steaks in their stores as an inexpensive cut of meat, primarily for the barbecue or grill. For 2 years, Schnucks Market was the exclusive sellers of pork steaks to St. Louisans before others noticed its popularity and followed suit. Today, what was originally considered just a St. Louis thing is now prevalent throughout the Midwest due to its low price, ease of preparation, great flavor, and the vast array of cooking options. Whenever I talk to someone about pork steaks, I'm almost always asked, but if it's cut from the shoulder, why is it called a butt? And what does Boston have to do with it? The reason is that pork shoulder was often sent on old wooden sailing ships during colonial times, not for export, but to feed the crew. To keep them preserved for long journeys across the Atlantic Ocean, they were packed with salt in huge barrels called butts. After packing, those butts were often sent to Boston, as it was the primary port for our country at the time. The sailors referred to the barrels as Boston butts, and the name was adopted and given to the salted pork shoulder inside, and that's how a pork shoulder became known as a Boston butt. Now that you've had a bite of the history of St. Louis pork steak, let's get over to the pit, and I'll show you my version of this tongue-popping barbecue icon from the Gateway City on the banks of the old Mississippi.
Howdy folks, welcome to the pit. Today we're going to be cooking up some St. Louis pork steaks. If you've never had these pork steaks, I'm going to tell you it's really easy to do, and I guarantee you're going to want to try this for yourself. This is Midwestern barbecue at its best. One nice thing about pork steaks is that it's ready to go right from the butcher. There's no need to trim or tenderize. Here we have 5 pork steaks, cut about a ½ inch thick. Each one is about a pound. Now we're going to keep this simple. Just season these steaks with some salt and pepper, however much you like. Now you just hold on and I'll season the rest of these up. Cooking these is a 3-step process: searing, braising, and searing again. So before we put these on the coals, we're going to mix up a sauce for the braising process. Here we've got about 4 cups of Fat Mike's sweet and tangy barbecue sauce. Now we're going to add about 1/4 cup of steak sauce. You know the one I'm talking about. To that, we're going to add 16 ounces of beer. You can use whatever beer you like, but if you want to stay authentic, you need to use a good old American lager. Whisk this together well. After it's all whisked together, set it aside until we need it later. Okay, we've got our grill set up here for 2-zone cooking. We're going to sear these steaks on each side directly over the coals, about 2 to 3 minutes per side. We just want to get them browned up just a little bit. Set them aside after they've been seared. This grill is big enough that I can just set them on the far grate. You just sit tight and I'll do up the other 3. Now that we have our steaks seared, we're going to braise these steaks to get them done. When it's done, you'll be able to cut these steaks with a fork. I guarantee it. Put the steaks down into our braising sauce we made and move them around to get them well coated with the sauce. Make sure each steak has a generous coating. Let's cover our pan with aluminum foil and set it in the indirect cooking zone off to the right of our coals. We want this grill to get up to around 300 to 325 degrees. Add some more coals to the grill if you need to and close the lid. And we'll cook these like this for about 2 hours. Resist the temptation to peek in on them. Keep the lid closed. Now that they're done braising, I've added a few more coals to the grill to get the direct cooking zone screaming hot, and we'll need that for the next step of the process. Take the steaks and sear them again about 2 minutes per side. When these pork steaks are done, I'll pull them off the grill and give you a better look. How about we serve this up with some scalloped potatoes and bacon fried collard greens? Oh man, that sweet and tangy sauce has picked up just a little bit of that charcoal smoke, and the meat is so tender it just pulls right off the bone and melts in your mouth. This is some damn good pork steak. You owe it to yourself to give this a try. And that leaves only one thing left to say.